Alright, today is Friday, August the 13th, and Friday is the day I normally trade. In theory, my worst because sleep deprivation might be a thing. It's also the last day of the week, so I need to watch myself. I shouldn't try to force myself to put in, myself in any trades or any setups that might not have been as good as, it feels like at the moment. I just want to play it a bit cautiously because I don't want to do anything done being the Friday thinking, oh, it's the weekend, I gotta nail this one, I gotta do a nice trade, and then no, I'm just gonna try to play it safe. But there is a pattern that I have been looking at. Is I have a new note here, 940 ish bottom and then 1010 VWAP reversal. What is that? So maybe this is just a fluke, but literally yesterday, look at NSAV. It had a bit of a morning panic. It did spike first 40 to 47. Look when it dropped. It's topped, it had a morning spike, sure, but the low was like 943-ish. And then look at when it breaks VWAP. Around 1014, it goes from, what is this low, 43 to as high as 47. So that's a pretty nice move. If we look at LKNCY, the bottom here was around 940-ish. This one was a bit different in that it kind of broke VWAP quickly and then it eventually uptrended. RGBP, when was the bottom? The bottom issue. This one was a bit later. This one was in the 940s and 950s to 10 actually. It didn't break VWAP until 11, so this one was a bit later. This one might be just not as nice because maybe it's a third red day and it just has a lot of overhead resistance, maybe a lot of bag holders. HPIL, when was the bottom? It was this 950, 940-ish level right here. Wanted to break VWAP. You see very close to that level, 1012 right here. NSAV, the bottom was around 943-ish. Did I go over this one already? I don't know. 1014, 1015, again, was the breakout. LTNC was up the entire day. It was a dip towards VWAP setup. Not really. It went from 11 to almost 15, so maybe. But that's what I'm going to be looking at. Maybe there's no longer the quick morning panic bounce play setup that I like as much. Maybe these are just going to be a little more gradual. It's going to take its time, and then it eventually breaks out. So I feel like if maybe one of these today has a morning panic bounce play, kind of bottoms around 944-ish, and there's a risk level right here, would have been risking 81, not trying to get into this wick territory. It forms a bottom, and if it never touches VWAP while it was heading towards this bottom or something like that, maybe I can hold it and wait for a breakout past VWAP, and that would give it some range. 89 to, let's just say, 83. That's not the worst, but this is something that is consistent looking, so I'll be taking this into consideration. Maybe these patterns are just developing into something else, and basically the same as yesterday, except for LKNCY. This is something that could do a breakout over, like, not the all-time high, maybe the all-time high, but definitely a wall in the 1540s. Maybe if it breaks past it, that will be nice, but I could be asking too much there. RGBP, I'd rather see this thing spike, but I'll just let it do what it wants. HPIL, it could try to break one, but that might be kind of hard. It's possible. NSAV, I'll just continue to watch it. LTNC, maybe it could continue an uptrend. Has it done at least like 3 green candles? It kind of has, so maybe a degenerate morning panic bounce play if it looks clean, but that's what I'm thinking of for today. Alright, it is 9:42. I haven't actually, it kind of threw me off, to be honest. I haven't seen one of these work this nicely in a really long time here with HPIL. It actually threw me off to the point that I didn't really hold this thing very long. So I was slowly increasing my size too. I ended up trading an $80,000 a $600 position. No, $80,000 position. at, what was my entry at 80, and that was right here. The minute was 9:40, right when it started to look like it was gonna break out, and this thing was like just did a really nice breakout. I haven't seen one this clean in a really long time. It actually threw me off because it was looking so nice that I thought, alright, maybe there's something iffy going on here, because I haven't seen one of these work in a very long time, and maybe I'll be prepared on Monday if they look this nice again. But I was pretty jaded, and it was like big volume candles, so I thought maybe, you know, there's somebody selling into this spike and this thing could turn around, and it might do that. But it did get to 84, and I sold at 81 like a schmuck, and I sold the next minute 41 at 81 in multiple pieces, and I think I'm up like $12 or something like that. So this was a setup. Maybe it can make a lower low, which would be more interesting. This one did bottom at 940, the level I've been looking at recently. Before, I would take an entry at like 934, right? But that's not really the case anymore. Now they're taking a bit longer. It's a bit more gradual. There was a big seller at 80 who had like 5 million shares, and he eventually disappeared. I mean, with all this volume, it makes sense. So now it's starting to downtrend. I wonder how it will do. Maybe it'll make a lower low or a double bottom or a higher low, something like that to trade off of. It broke past VWAP already, so this isn't the 10-10, you know, time period for a VWAP breakout setup. This is more of like a regular traditional morning panic bounce play that I feel like I haven't seen in a really long time. It did get to 84. I would have been trying to sell in the 82s, 83s, maybe 84 if I were to have held better, because at that point it broke VWAP. That's pretty impressive. I just haven't seen one of these work in a very long time. Maybe, hopefully, I can trade one of those. I could have even went larger too. I was slowly increasing my size as the thing started to look nicer. How much did I trade again? I traded a $600 position. Honestly, I could have traded a $900 position pretty easily with the volume that we had here. I was looking at other ones like DPLS. Looks like it was going to do a morning spike, right? Because it had this spike here, and then it started holding VWAP. It looks like it did get a little higher, but it didn't really do nothing that nice. RGBP does not look nice. I'll delete this, but I'll watch it on the other watch list. DPLS was, yeah, this is the one I mentioned. I think another one did something like that. NSAV is trying to uptrend, but it looks like it's getting sold into because these things are looking very narrow. LTNC, okay, this one did actually do it. I was considering maybe a buy because it was in theory holding 17 cents from yesterday, but it was being sketchy down here, but it is working now, so congrats to anybody who traded that. I'll be interested in HPIL if it makes a lower low. We didn't get like any low volume candles at the bottom, but it was just holding this level right here in this range 79, and I would have cut. If 79 broke, I probably wouldn't have been there for 78. If it goes back to that level again a third time, maybe it's just too weak. It could turn around obviously, but that was the setup there. I was in at 80, just a small profit. Could have traded a lot larger, but I don't mind it that much because I just haven't seen some of these look like this. I haven't seen one look this clean in a really long time. Maybe I'll be more prepared if we get one of these again in the future. This was really nice. I wonder what the volume says for today. The volume isn't even that impressive, but the day just started. So yeah, this was the setup right here. I'll make an update later. Maybe a lower low setup here could be in the making. Alright, it is 9:54. I would love to see this thing crack 78. In theory, I could even go long and risk 78 too, but this would be a double bottom, not a lower low, which I really like because they seem to work the best. It's not like I have a weird chart preference, it's just that one seems to work more often than not. But we do have a big seller here. Maybe it'll get taken out and then it'll be a double bottom. I could try a small position I would hate that, but I would maybe just trade like a $300 position or something just tiny, right? So that's my mindset right now. I would like to see this do a double bottom once again. Not a double bottom, a lower low. But if we crack that 8 seller, maybe it'll try to be a double bottom, which would suck. But hey, what, you know, it's better than nothing. Alright, it is 10:04. I just want to make an update with everything going on right now, just really quickly. LTNC was in theory, dip towards VWAP setup, but it was sketchy. It had all these wick price action right here, but in theory it did, you know, provide a setup. It did spike from what, 169 to 183, so not the best, but it could be worse. Drops towards VWAP for the first time in theory, and there was that small spike so far. It did do a double bottom, and that sucked. I did not get in this trade. It did get as high as 84, but as you can tell, it was a bit harder. It just was a single wick here, while back here actually traded back and forth between 84. Probably at the ask was 84, but yeah, it could still downtrend and make a lower low. But then I wouldn't be interested in trading a larger position. I could have went even larger here, because in theory I could have went in at 80 and I risked 79 cracking. That's literally one tick from my entry, and we do have 78 as previous price action here. There were some ticks down there as well, so it would have been a little bit of a cushion to know that maybe if it cracks 79, it's going to go to 78, and it's not going to be some huge panic and 74s at the bid or something, and then there's a lot of slippage. So yeah, potential maybe lower low setup, but it's not going to be as clean because it did make a double bottom first, and it could continue an uptrend too, so it's not like it has to go back down there. It could just try to hold around here at VWAP and maybe even try to go green on the day. That's totally possible too. So that's what I'm thinking about for that. LKNCY, nothing really too interesting. I'll be more interested in it if it gets closer to 15.3. NSAV, nothing. This was sketchy price action, just a big dump right here, and it kind of came back from that. I don't think I would have bought that. That would have been kind of random. Again, with LTNC, it could break the highs right here, and that would be potentially interesting. You know, it is such a long time ago from back here. Maybe a lot of the bag holders have sold by then, but that could be a potential setup if it cracks that level. But I would go small, and DPLS keeps uptrending. This one actually broke out, and it's pretty nice, but it doesn't trade with that much range. So that's what I'm thinking about right now. Nothing too clear that I want to trade. Alright, it is 10:20, and this new one, VPER, which is a former penny stock runner back here, is up because of some news, and I will be interested in this if it does a dip towards VWAP setup. I'm actually pretty surprised that it did as well as it did here. Tim Sykes was in and out of this trade, and the fact that, you know, this thing just still keeps going, you know, is really good news. So maybe this can be a potential, again, dip towards VWAP setup. That would be pretty nice. I'll have to be a bit speculative because, you know, I'm not that experienced with these. HPIL did get it did trade here much higher into the 84s, so that would have been a potential sell on that level. It sucks, but you know, maybe should have went in the trade, but I just don't like double bottoms. They seem to never work. This one did work, however, so that's pretty nice. Again, this one could just hold VWAP and just do an uptrend, but none of the stocks did that whole thing at 940-ish bottom except for this, but none of them broke past VWAP later in the day, I guess, except for LKNCY, but this wasn't really an exact pattern. NSAV, nothing. DPLS could be a dip towards VWAP, but I don't like how gradual the spike was. I might consider it though. LTNC, nothing. It could break out of that range. So literally just VPER and maybe DPLS for a dip towards VWAP setup. That's what I'll be looking at. Alright, it's 10:29. This thing is dropping. I might try to trade this live. This thing could fail. The main thing I'm worried about is that it could fail because it's up on news. It could literally just be a news pump and dump, or maybe it's gonna continue and try to hold itself and make new highs, or just try some kind of a setup there. But now it looks like it's turning around. All of the people who were chasing this thing on the way up, they're panicking. Let's see if this thing, how it reacts at VWAP. I don't mind if I miss it, and if I trade it, I'll trade a tiny $200 position just to get some experience out of this. And it's not, again, something I'm that familiar with on the stock like this that is up because of news in general. But let's see, it might be so strong that it just holds right above VWAP and it doesn't downtrend. But we'll see how this thing trades. I might consider it. And I also have to take into consideration that it could just drop below VWAP a little. So I just want to see if maybe how this thing reacts at this level. If maybe it drops at VWAP and then it creates some kind of range, and then I'll risk the bottom of the range or something like that. That's what I have in mind. And it's not an exact science because this thing is up because of, you know, breaking news. It's not like just regular pump price action. So I mean, it could be both, but really that's what I have in mind. You know, some stocks that go up on news, they just drop so much and they go back to where they were sometimes. If this is it right here, I don't mind missing it. I would have liked it if it traded back and forth within a range, and it's kind of doing that here. I guess the risk level so far would be 13, but it's not really looking too perfect. There are still a lot of people dumping their shares on the bid. So far, 13 could be a risk level. I really want to buy at 16, but it did do a nice spike. If it's that strong, it might not even touch VWAP. Yeah, there's still a lot of people dumping their shares on the bid. $112 is at the bid. Alright, now it's at VWAP. Let's see how it starts to react here. It could just barely touch VWAP and then turn around. I'll get out if it cracks 11. I could have been a bit early here, but it seems like there was a huge wall of people supporting at 11, so that's what I have in mind. Alright, I'm out at 17, and this thing could keep going, but again, it's a rather new setup. You know, we immediately did get a big green candle, which kind of threw me off a little bit, but in theory, this thing can just keep going. Now, at one point, I was thinking of 120, but I just wanted to really play it safe. Again, it's a setup I'm kind of new with, especially on something that's up because of breaking news, some kind of news alert, and it spikes, you know, randomly in the day. I mean, it was doing nothing before it. We did have like a potential for a lot of bag holders to be selling into this. It did drop towards VWAP. At one point it looked like it was trying to hold it, but I'll make an update and see how high this thing does. Again, I sold at 17. My entry was at 13, and that was a small size of roughly just $200. That was just a $7 gain. My percent gain was nice though, it was 3%. In theory, this thing could continue to go, but what really got me into this trade, 111 was a level of support, and I think 11 flat, no, just 111. And when they showed that there was just a huge wall of people at 11, you know, just a huge wall of people at 11, I thought, okay, clearly there is a potential that this thing is going to have support, and it's not just going to go way up and way back down, but instead it could actually play around this VWAP level. And that's the idea here. It could now trade between this range. If I was still in this trade right here, this is what would be my new mindset. My mindset would be 116 is the low of this range and 118 is the high. If it breaks 118, we'll see how strong the breakout is, and then I'll sell as soon as there's any topping action, or maybe it like is going to turn around. And of course, I'll keep an eye at 120 and 125 as potential levels that it might turn around and downtrend. And then 116 is the low of this range. So if it were to break 116 under it, I'd cut the trade immediately, and hopefully I still got some profits. Maybe I'd even consider selling half in this range right here. So then if it goes down, you know, I at least sold some while it was still in its highs. So that's the mindset. Again, I bought at 13 and I sold at 17. We'll see if this thing breaks out past 18, it might do it, or if it breaks under 16. Just a small $200 position, a 3% gain. And yeah, I'll make an update later to see what this does. It's nice that I actually recorded one of these trades live. How long did I hold on to it? Probably wasn't even a minute. I held it for a minute and a half, give or take. So I'll make an update later to see what it does. It can go any direction, honestly. Alright, it is 11:12 a.m. and DPLS was a panic. I don't think I would have traded this, even though we had like a big volume candle and then big volume in general, and we had that low range which I would have raised maybe 262. DPLS is a choppy stock, so I didn't really want to trade it. I didn't want to give it any money, and then it did a higher low here, so that would have been kind of nice. I don't think I was there when it did that. NSAV looks super similar. This is one where I might have considered a little more. Kind of surprising that I might consider NSAV more than DPLS, but it could do like a higher low, but I don't know about this one. I'm not too sure. HPIL, it did get as high as 87, so I was kind of right in that it held VWAP. I thought it could hold VWAP and then make another move towards the upside. Yeah, in theory I should have just went for maybe the double bottom, but I just don't like them too much. This one is one example that worked out nicely, but that was fine. I did do this trade right here. I did not trade it perfectly. I barely held on to it, you know, just because it was working so well, and I just haven't seen that in a long time. I'll be more prepared. At least I traded a somewhat larger position size there. LKNCY is nothing. I'll actually remove this, but I'll still watch it in the other screen if it potentially breaks past that level. LTNC, same thing here. If it breaks past this, what, 18.3 level? it does its breakouts. I mean, it did do that breakout from 15, right, a while back, which was right here, but it just trades all ugly, so I'll just let it be. And then VPER, this was the range I think I was talking about when it was between 17 and 18, right here actually, 18 and 16. It did get a little higher and went to 12, a little tick at 121, and then it kind of traded all weird. At this point maybe I would have considered selling at 19 or 18, which is fine. It just got a little bit higher past that range, but you know, it could have went much further too. It could have cracked it, but this one, it just broke it a little and then it went under. Now it's at 105. I'm not too interested in this anymore. This thing could fade away, as I've seen a lot of stocks that just spike randomly in a day because of news. NSAV could be some kind of a dip buy. I mean, it might have support at 34.1 in theory, because it's just playing off of this level of support, but I might just leave this one alone. We're also in the middle of the day, so maybe it's not too perfect. In theory, I could have traded HPIL better. I could have traded the double bottom here. I could have traded risking VWAP at 82 for a breakout at 87, but volume isn't very nice. Price action isn't really perfect. DPLS was a double bottom, not a double bottom, a low and a higher low right here. I don't regret really not trading that one, and yeah, that's all I got. NSAV again could be some kind of a dip buy off of this support level, but I don't want to do anything dumb. I don't mind if I don't trade anything else today and I can just continue learning, so looking at these and listening to the all day live trading webinar. So that's all I got for right now. Alright, it is 5:06 p.m. and I'm here to call it off. I think I'm up like $19. Not much. My head is completely fried. Just the all-day live thing webinar, and just I don't know. I look forward to this Friday and the weekend. NSAV had a horrible misprint, and now this chart is doomed. You can fix stuff like this with TD immediate trade, but I don't think you can do that here. This one is just absolutely destroyed. Maybe, I swear, maybe promoters like give each other crap and they give themselves a horrible misprint just to mess up the charts. I literally don't even want to talk about NSAV anymore. I just don't even know what to say. I need the chart as a reference and it's just not there. LTNC did do like a panic in the afternoon. I honestly probably wouldn't have traded it if I had seen it. I like it when it does a V-type panic, but this is a bit liquid. If it had more volume, if it looked more consistent perhaps, but this one did work. HPIL, this was my trade. Horrible sell, but I was just so thrown off by how well it was working out. And for that reason, I got out of the trade. I got in at 940. Let me get rid of extended hours. 940, and I got out 941 at 81. Maybe 81.5, who knows, but definitely 80, something above 81. It got as high as 84. Here was a double bottom, and I should have taken that, but I've been thrown off with double bottoms. They don't seem to always work. This one did. It got to 83, and then I mean, it got as high as 89, so there was definitely some opportunity there. I would have had a hard time holding all of this weight, so maybe something like a buy in 81, 82. I forgot the exact level, and then a sell at 83, 84, probably 83. I guess that would have been something, but I just need to get better or have the patience to hold some of those setups better. DPLS was that higher low right here. Late morning panic bounce play. Sketchy price action, but I guess here it kind of held itself together and offered a range to 1261 as a level to risk. Not the worst. This one was nice. I didn't trade it. I just decided to just look at it. And this one kind of worked out. I had a very choppy breakout of 15. Finally, it broke this level 15, right? And then it downtrended, and then it looks like a head and shoulders. It went down, and then maybe if I had seen this inverse head and shoulder, shoulder, head, shoulder, would have taken that and then that's the second higher low. Honestly, I'm probably thinking of it that way. Maybe I could have considered the going in right here. I would have the range to risk as well as VWAP. They're basically the same level. Nice squeeze into the end. Now it's at 17. Does this trade after hours? Yes, it does, and I got as high as 18, but then it went back to 16.25. So this one could have worked out in that sense. It's a bit choppy. This one doesn't trade perfectly, but that could have been a setup. And then VPER, I'm happy that I had one of these setups live. It was right here, my buy 113. It got as high as 120 if you want to count the wick. 121. I sold at 117. It wasn't that bad at all. I played it very safely. I was barely in the trade that long, and it did drop. I wouldn't have traded this. That would have been random. So yeah, I'll see what happens. A new one. Well, it's an old one. I've traded it before, but this one I just haven't really seen these work. But this one did it. This one broke out. Gamer broke at this, all-time high. Well, for today, new day high. 43.36. That's definitely some range. I could consider that. NC can be a morning panic bounce play now. A degenerate one, but it could be one. So that's all I got. I think I might be still down this week because of Monday's trading, but I think if I were to have had a repeat of Monday, I would have been more profitable with the new setups, the ideas I have in mind, trading like really crazy stocks like those. So yeah, that's all I got. I look forward to the weekend, and what can I say? A lot of room for improvement, but overall I think I'm doing okay. I have to keep trying.